The presenting sponsor of Moon Tower Soccer is FVF Law.
To find out what makes FVF a different kind of injury law firm, you can visit fvf.law.
Hello, friends, and thanks for listening to Moon Tower Soccer. This week, we'll review Austin's frustrating 3-2 loss in Montreal. We'll preview the upcoming San Jose match this weekend at home, and then we'll cover a strange transfer window, or I guess an into a transfer window, and a few other pieces of Austin FC news. My name's Landon Cottam, and I'm joined, as always, by Mr. Jeremiah Bentley.
Hey, everybody. I'm Jeremiah Bentley, and Landon, I think this thing that we have to talk about in the opening is something that's going to require a little bit of a setup. So you have been a season ticket holder since season 1, correct?
That is correct.
And we know that Austin FC is doing, what is it called? Something to honor.
5 years of Verde.
5 years of Verde, right, which is a little giveaway every week to people who have been around since the start. So today at 4 o'clock, we got our email from the team that both of us received with sort of the items. Also, often there are multiple items per week for the people who have been on since day one. And so first one is a game-used ball, which I think is...
And this is a drawing that's happening
right
from that population you just mentioned.
Yeah, so there's a drawing to give away like different things. So a game-used ball, that's cool. That would be good. I would like to have that. But the second one is an honorary captain experience. So can you describe what that is?
I mean, all I know is what is written in this email that I received, but it says an honorary captain experience, in parentheses, get the captain's armband and sit in on the post-match press conference.
So in your imaginary world where you get to dream about what an honorary captain might be, what are you doing?
I want to stand on the sideline and yell at the players like Ilya does when he's not on the field.
I like that.
Yeah, so that way, I'm already telling them what to do from my seats up high, but I know they can't hear me or see me from up there. So I want to be down where they know what I'm talking about.
And you think that would make a real difference, right? With the way they play and what they do?
Absolutely not. The only reason I know what they should be doing up there is because I have like the TV view from my seats. If I were pitch side, I'd be like, I don't know what's happening down here.
Have you thought about scoring more goals or like playing better defense? Because that's what you should do.
Do it good.
Yes. Stop sucking. Yeah.
What would you do as a captain?
So for mine, I'm more interested in the post-match press conference. Like I would like to sit next to the coach. I assume in the real world, the post-match press conference is like you get to sit into it, which is a thing we have the opportunity to do almost every week and maybe have never done after a game, except when it was virtual. But in my head, I'm like, it's Nico, the player, and me. And I get the chance to answer this question first. It's like, yeah, Phil West is like, what did you think about blah, blah, blah? And I just got to sit back with my arms folded. I'm like, let me tell you.
Yeah, you cut Nico off and actually answer.
Yeah.
I'll take this one, coach.
I got it. Because clearly I'm an expert.
I guess you are MLS experts.
Yes. Yes, as a certain sporting director said, we are MLS experts. So I got to handle that. So honestly, I'm willing to do that any week. So, front office, if you want to call me up and have me sit into any press conference and answer.
Nico, let us know. Jeremiah can help out. All right, let's get into the soccer, I guess. Where should we start here, Jeremiah?
I mean, my original notes on this game were like to record 45 minutes of my dog sighing when they're overwhelmed by whatever overwhelms a very privileged dog and just like make that the show. So I think that to say, it feels like for me, this is maybe just the most deflating match of the year, given expectations going in, where they were on the table, how Austin had been in a pretty good run of form. And we'll get into this a little bit more in a few minutes, but just felt like I had really high expectations and they were not met at all. And it was not even things went against us and the ball bounced wrong. It was like, no, just on the night, they were absolutely the better team.
Yeah.
Yeah. They were bad. Yeah. We were bad. They were better.
Yeah. I think this is maybe my memory is being short here, but arguably the worst game Austin's played all year. That's probably not true, but it's one of the worst. As far as just I feel like there's been games where we've had some good stretches and some bad stretches. And in those games, maybe there were more bad stretches than good. There's almost no like periods during this game where I'm like, Austin's the better team now. If that was true, it was for maybe a few minutes at a time, not like 15 minutes, like 3 minutes. And that was really frustrating. And even players that we've gotten used to just knowing that they're going to have a good game. Mikael Dessler being one of them. We'll bring his name up a few times later on. He still wasn't just outright terrible. He was still one of the best players on the field for most of the game, but in some big moments where it mattered, he was poor and not good enough. That's true of a lot of players on the field. So yeah, very deflating.
And I feel like Austin's not alone in this, but like Prince Owusu is a menace. And I hadn't like seen him play a lot this year because they're not great, but that guy is really good.
He's a handful. He's big, strong, mobile, technical, smart. Just like he's a little bit like Vasquez, and like he's got the physical attributes like the size and strength and speed, but then also just knows what to do, knows how to use his body, knows where to move. And he was more than Austin could handle in this game, and especially in a game where not everyone was firing all cylinders. It seemed like road games are hard in MLS. Like the home field advantage is bigger in MLS than probably most leagues and sports in the world due to the travel. This is one of the longest road trips you can make, really. And so that could be playing into it. Who knows what else? It's a collection of humans on the field, missing one of our regular starters due to suspension. All kinds of stuff could have played into it, but it did. And we were not up to playing the way that you need to slow down a guy like Prince Owusu, and then to slow down this other team who, on the whole, has been quite bad this year. They didn't look like a bad team in this game, Montreal. It's not like we didn't do much to help make them look worse, but they did play quite well. I think they deserve some credit there for taking advantage of us not being on top of our game. But yeah, I don't know. It's probably all of the above. Travel, being away from home, whatever else, just like not feeling good that day. It seems like that was true across the board for our players.
Yeah, and I think what that leads to is that like this team is, I feel like we know this team right now, and not only because the transfer window is closed and there's nobody else coming in or out, but just like generally, and now for the history of this club, except for 2022, this is like a borderline playoff team that's always on the cusp, and I feel like this team is more talented this year than they have been in the last couple years, but still like the pieces don't all fit together, and I think this is just something that we have to come to grips with. And also it's like an MLS thing where it's also okay. They're like 7th place teams that make the conference finals or even make the league finals because it's a weird league. But I think expecting Austin to like I think there's 8 games left to put together this like run of 7 wins is not going to happen. But also they probably don't have to do that given the road ahead and where everybody else is.
Yeah. This is MLS statement cuts both ways, right? Where you don't have to be great to make the playoffs, but also anyone can beat anybody on a given night. And so we'll get into our schedule. Actually, we can probably talk about this now. Our schedule on paper is not terrible going forward. We've actually just passed probably the easiest part of it and didn't really take advantage of that, which is worrying. But the schedule going forward is something that maybe there's still some reason to feel somewhat positive about it. Am I going too far here?
No, let's, I mean, we should end this. Like one thing, like it would be really weird to just, mull over depression for the whole show. And if we just did that, I would expect people to like turn it off and go find something that brings more joy to their lives. Like let's end this on a positive note. So like this past Saturday was obviously not incredible for what we were looking for out of this club, but for the rest of the season, this team is not in an awful position. And I will start with just Austin's in 9th on points, tied with San Jose in 8th, have a few points clear between them, and I think it's 4 between them and Real Salt Lake, who's in 10th, and also a game in hand. So everybody around Austin is playing just as average, if not worse.
The only team that has played fewer games than us is LAFC, they're far enough ahead that it kind of doesn't matter at this point for Austin's playoff hopes. Then you look around the rest of the table, everyone around them or below them has played 1 to 2 games more than Austin, meaning that if we're extrapolating points per game across the rest of the season, Austin's going to get that extra 1.35 points or whatever it is that they've averaged across the season so far. So if you look at, okay, we're on 35 points now. Generally, is it like 47? Is that where they say the line? Like if you can get to 47, you're probably safe for the wild card game.
You're probably safe, but I think it's maybe even a little bit lower than that practically over the last few years, maybe like 45 or something is what Austin can shoot for.
And that seems like it's going to be the case this year, especially if Austin can beat just the right teams in this last stretch. Because several of the teams, I mean, we play San Jose twice. We've got RSL, Dallas, Kansas City, St. Louis, who are all below us. If we can win against the teams who can catch us, then that will do us a lot of good. And we may not even need to keep our 1.35 points per game steady. Like we can maybe sneak in with less than that. I don't want that to happen. I would rather us go on a good run and get in easily and maybe not even have to play in the wild card game. But we could probably still limp into the wild card game just by getting a win here, getting a draw here. Like probably like maybe even as few as 8 points, maybe 10 points. That could still get you in.
It's not that rewarding, as a fan who wants to win every match, but that just kind of shows where Austin is. And I think we'll talk about this too a little bit later on, but is every reason to believe that, in future seasons when this fully becomes Rodo's team and we get rid of all the bad contracts, like maybe this is a team on the uptick. And that's the one thing that was interesting about Montreal, which I know came up, is they're not playing very well, but they're a young team and they're a developing team. And so like you can see where they can pull out these individual matches and moments where they sort of play better than you would think they would play based upon their results so far.
Yeah. Anything else before we take a break here, Jeremiah?
No, let's go ahead and take a break and then we'll dig into the all the key moments of the match and then at the end of it get into what was a weird last week in transfer news. A very MLS-y week, as they say.
Yeah.
When no one is around.
Moon Tower Soccer is brought to you by our friends at FVF Law, the official injury lawyers of Austin FC.
FVF is a different kind of personal injury law firm dedicated to community, transparency, and client education. And they have a podcast called Summary Judgment, which we talk about, what I've listened to. And you don't have to be like a lawyer wanting to listen to lawyer nerd things to listen to this podcast. Like they talk about other things too. So it's interesting whether you're an attorney or not. So check it out wherever you get your podcasts.
You can go to FVF.law to find out what makes FVF a different kind of injury law firm and why understanding your legal options can dramatically change the outcome of a case. Once again, that's FVF.law. Amplify Credit Union is a member-owned financial cooperative that served the needs of Central Texans for over 5 decades. As a credit union, Amplify has no shareholders or parent companies. That means more of your money stays in the community.
Amplify has been the home of fee-free banking since 2022. Their free checking accounts come with 0 overdraft fees or minimum balance. That means Amplify's fee-free checking accounts help you get more mileage from your everyday spending.
Amplify membership is open to any Texas resident. Learn to trust your bank again at Amplify Credit Union. To learn more and to register for free parking at the Amplify Esperanza branch on game day, go to www.goamplify.com/moontower-soccer. And Moon Tower Soccer is brought to you once again by Tony C's Pizza and Beer Garden, serving New York-style pizza and authentic Italian. Now open in Kyle at Kohler's Crossing, in Round Rock in front of Del Diamond, and on Anderson Lane near Shoal Creek Boulevard. Our Anderson Lane Beer Garden is just 2 miles from Q2 Stadium. Stop by for pizza and a pint before all this year's games, and with TVs on every wall, it's the perfect spot to watch away games.
Or you can bring the whole family for lunch or dinner and catch the game at the same time. Or you can have it at the Moody Center. If you like, we went to a concert on Sunday night and there was some Tony C's Pizza and Beer Garden pizza there. And it was very tasty at the pepperoni. Their pizza of the month this month is the Hawaii 5-0 prosciutto, fresh mozzarella, pineapple, pizza sauce, Calabrian peppers, and fresh oregano. You can also do 2 for Tuesday, which is 2 pizzas for the price of 1 every Tuesday. and Pitcher Perfect Thursdays, half-price pitchers of beer every Thursday. Which reminds me, I've not had a pitcher of beer in a long time. But next time we should go to Tony C's, we should probably agree on something and check it out.
Let's do it. Tony C's Beer Garden is Austin owned and operated, so be sure to check them out online at TonyC'sBeerGarden.com. All right, we are back. We're going to dig into this Montreal game. Jeremiah, where should we start here?
I think just generally, we've talked about where Austin's the table now, looking at the play-in game. Austin loses their undefeated match streak, which is at 8, which I think may have been actually the second longest non-losing streak in club history. I mean, pregame, we talked about this last week. I think everybody went in hoping for, if not expecting, a victory. It's one of these classic Andrew Wiebe bonus games playing against an Eastern Conference team that was near the bottom of the table. Austin, other than the Danny Pereira being out a red card, is completely healthy. Like, everything is there for Austin to win, and it just doesn't happen.
Yeah, and again, just shows that never bet MLS, right? Especially on the road. Any team can beat any team on the right night, and this was the right night for them to beat us because we did bad and they did well. So the lineup was the same lineup we've seen the last 2-3 games.
This would have been the fourth in a row that had the same. If you excluding Danny, obviously, since he was out on card accumulation.
Yeah, Danny suspended, so there's some conversation of okay, what do you want to see? Who would you change? I think this was always the most likely scenario where you just swap in Savovich. And that is the least disruptive to the rest of the lineup, where Owen starting out on the left and being able to float in and combine with different people in different parts of the field and not be, I was going to say not be drawn back by defensive responsibilities. He is that sometimes too, but he's not always in the rest defense shape, if that makes sense, where there's never a moment where Owen's not allowed to go into the box because he's supposed to be the last man back. If he's on the wing, that's almost always true. And I think in this game specifically, we probably really could have used Danny Pereira. Montreal runs a man marking defensive system where it's exactly what it sounds like. They match up 1-for-1 across the field and would just chase those guys wherever they could go. Once you get out of a first little stretch and can lose one man, it makes them vulnerable. But Austin really struggled to do that first part. They couldn't play out of the back. Stuver ended up booting it along quite a bit. And then when we did try to play through, Austin's passing was pretty sloppy a lot of the time, and we just lose it needlessly sometimes. So Danny Pereira is a guy who the 1v1 stuff, the ball retention stuff, beating a guy on the dribble. If you can find him in space, he can beat one man. That means the next man has to step to him, and the man marking system is gone at that point. They're scrambling. They have to move around and try to find whoever they can find and stop the guy with the ball. We rarely put them in that position. It finally started happening later on, but we didn't figure it out soon enough to be very dangerous at all for most of the first half.
Yeah, this is, I think, one of the things that leads to this being the game. What we talked about off the top about being a game that I just did not leave feeling very good about is really from the start. It's all Montreal. If you look at the momentum chart or from whatever website you want to, it's very blue. It's not Verde. They had shots early on. It was just clear that Austin was a little bit discombobulated and disconnected, from the beginning. Whereas in other matches, maybe where it's been disappointing, it was, it's up and down from the start or whatever. But the first goal comes early, but there were 2 or 3 chances that Montreal had even before then.
Yeah, I think they had 2 or 3 pretty good shots from decent areas before this goal, and they just none of the players struck the ball very well, or they didn't finish off the play where it could have been even more trouble for Austin. But luckily, none of those really troubled Stuver at all. But yeah, this first goal comes in the 9th minute. Again, lots of sloppy passes that needlessly give the ball away, kill any momentum that we worked to get to up in that point, which we were scratching and clawing for any momentum we could. And then something like this happens where we win a ball, play the ball upfield to Uzuni. He tries to lay it off to Owen, but plays it a yard behind him. And because of that, like that phase of play, Biru is sprinting upfield to try to make himself available on the overlap or like get involved and make himself an option. And we give the ball away immediately, meaning there's just 100 yards of space behind him. Nobody's there anymore. And so Escobar wins the ball in the midfield. He plays a ball in behind for Sinchuk where Biru would have been had we lost it in a more organized phase of play or not lost it at all. Plays it to Sinchuk, and he has the ball running at goal with our two center backs also facing their own goal and sprinting. Heinzike engages him, but Sinchuk immediately cuts it inside onto his left and removes Heinzike from the picture, whips a shot just inside the far post, and it's 1-0 within the first 10 minutes. Heinzike didn't look great here. I thought there's several moments where he looked really off his game in this one.
Yeah, well, this is true here, but also like you don't ever want to put Brendan Heinzike in a position to be in a foot race, no matter what. And I was gonna ask because I just watched it before we started recording too. Like, if you could do it, do you give Uzuni the hockey assist on this one? Like he plays a really good ball to Escobar to like spring the break.
Yeah, it's like perfectly in
to.
his path and like carries his momentum back towards goal. So it very much played into the goal.
Yeah.
Heinzike here. So he engages him. He's for the scenario. He's not in terrible position here. But whenever Sinchuk cuts it back across, Heinzike's body shape looks as though he thought Sinchuk was going to cut in and then cut back onto his right foot, which makes me think that he didn't know that Sinchuk is left-footed. This guy has played most of their games lately, and he doesn't always play in the same spot, but he has mostly played over on that right side. So if they've watched any film, which I'm sure they did, he would have seen this guy trying to cut in on his left foot a lot. And Heinzike, I don't think Heinzike is that immobile that Sinchuk turned him so bad that he couldn't change position. It looked to me like he wasn't going to commit the other way and give up him cutting back onto his right. But Sinchuk never does that. And so he gets that shot off, and Heinzike is nowhere near him to even put any kind of pressure on the shot at all. And the finish is good, but he shouldn't have had that much space to try it.
Yeah, I was going to say, to his credit, it was a good shot. And there was nothing, once he gets that off, there's like, Brad did not have a lot of chance to be able to do anything with it. But yeah, maybe don't let him get that shot off in that position.
Yeah, but it goes back to that poor pass, which is one, not even, I was going to say the first of many. It's not. I think we played two balls directly out of bounds before this happened. Where I don't know why this was happening, but the player would start to make a run and an Austin player would play behind them to where they were standing before. And this makes me think like this man marking thing, like, okay, take the travel, take the home field advantage or whatever. And on top of that, play against the defense that's playing very different from most defenses that you play. I can't help but think maybe that got in their head as well, where they were expecting a guy to stay instead of run and were playing balls behind them, but they did not look comfortable. And I think that's, good on Montreal for executing well, but it feels like a failure of preparation again. I think we've said that a few games recently, right? Where this is not a secret. Montreal has done this. I haven't watched them all the time, but like they do this. Like this isn't a thing they sprung on Austin and haven't done against anyone else.
No, that's very fair. Yeah, that's the adjustments. That adjustment does not seem to happen, and I think we'll get into the end of the match about, I don't know, my personal annoyance on the post-match press conference with some quotes, and I think it ties into this a little bit, but we'll get into it later.
So Austin ties it up in the 39th minute with a Uzuni header. It starts with an Uzuni chance in the box that gets cleared out. It's another one of these where he has a chance to hit it first time. I think Bukhari maybe plays him to the top of the box. And he ends up like cutting it. I don't remember exactly what it was, but he takes an extra touch, shoots, and it gets cleared out. Dessler deserves some credit here. Dante Seeley is up on their left wing, and they get into kind of a wrestling match for that loose ball. Dessler wins and causes the ball to bounce to Rubio, and then Dessler immediately starts sprinting upfield. So really good work on him to keep Seeley from winning that ball, and then also to get his head down and just continue running and recognize that there's space for me to run into here. Rubio turns, plays a really well-weighted ball right into Dessler's path as he's entering the box. Somebody clips Dessler's heels here as he runs into the box. I kind of think he could have fallen there and gotten a penalty. But it wasn't clear enough that I'm glad he did keep going because is Alan Chapman the ref? He was letting them play pretty physically in this game. So I think it's a good idea that he stayed up, but takes a touch towards the inline, hits a cross towards the near post. That's like difficult for the keeper to deal with because it's low and hard enough that it's difficult for him to get out, but close enough that if anybody gets a touch, it's going to be difficult to deal with. So Uzuni has Morales, the center back, on his back, but just kind of bulldogs his way towards that near post and gets to that ball before the center back can and before the keeper can, gets his head on it and punches it into the back of the goal. But I just good effort, intelligence, and execution from Dessler and Uzuni here to just make the high chance run, right? Make the run to the near post, put in a hard cross to the near post, work really hard to get there, and every once in a while, it'll hit you in the head and go in.
Yeah, and this probably caps. You talked about how Austin didn't look like the better team for many long periods. This is probably like the 7 or 8 best minutes that Austin has on the night, or this and some other chances they have leading up to it. And then this is just like the duality of Mirto Uzuni. Like, this is not a wide open chance. This is, like you said, this is like an effort thing. This is just like him bulldogging somebody. This is the kind of thing that he would do in Spain that he hasn't done as much of in, here in MLS. And I felt like he had a pretty solid performance on the night. Like, he was busy and he was pretty effective. He didn't convert every chance, but this is like what we've seen from him a little bit more lately that leads to some amount of promise. It's just like the kind of things he can do, because that was not a very obvious chance. I don't know what the X goal on it was, but it was like one that he made from his own effort.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it was not a gimme, even though the XG may see it and say like, oh, well, he hit it with his head from 2 yards out or whatever. It's like, well, it was more complicated than that.
Yeah.
But
Everything he did to get that ball on his head 2 yards out is what was important.
Montreal. So we're getting close to the end of the first half. Montreal pull ahead again right before the half, which is always devastating. It's a very clever and incisive passing sequence from Montreal that leads to Seeley punching one in from around the penalty spot. I was ready to watch this back, and often we'll review these goals and be like, okay, it started here. This guy messed this up, and then this guy did this wrong, and then this guy did this wrong. I was expecting this to be one of those goals. Honestly, I think it's a really good play from Montreal. Like, there was not any obvious errors that like, oh, if this is done 10% different, then this doesn't happen. That was not really true in my opinion here. So I don't remember how this starts, but they play it up the right side, and Zinchuk, that right winger, was tucked inside. He makes a vertical run, like kind of out, like into out. That carries our midfielder with him. Prince Owusu at the same time is dropping into midfield. And I was thinking, okay, Heinz Ike maybe could have been a little more aggressive stepping to Owusu to make that pass for him more difficult. But because Sinchuk is making that run in behind, he kind of keeps Heinz Ike in limbo. Like, okay, maybe I need to stay here and follow this run if they play in behind. But the ball kind of is at an angle to where it could be for Sinchuk, but goes past him and goes through Owusu. So that's why he was so open. But then he first times it over the top into Sinchuk's path. And so that puts him into space. Dante Seeley is streaking up that left-hand side. And this is another spot where it's like, could Dessler maybe have fought past him there at the end? Maybe he could have given 10% more effort and been in an area to cut that out. But Seeley did really well too. Like Seeley's fast. He's an athletic player. And you can see him kind of like stiff arming Dessler at the end to keep him off, to keep him from taking that extra last step. So I think Montreal deserves a lot of credit here. Could Austin have done better? Sure. But I don't think there's any like obvious error that within those last few passes anyway, that was like, this is why this happened.
Yeah, it feels very much like one of those. We've talked about these Austin goals over the last few weeks. Like I remember the one, particularly where like Owen Wolff's running down the left side and goes down and gets back up. And like we talked about that as like a team goal, right? And how that's just good performance on Austin's side and never really reflect on like who screwed up on the other team, because it was almost no matter what happened, like the goal was going to go in. This feels like the inverse of that. It's unfortunate, but yeah, that was a really solid goal. If you're looking for things to criticize or reasons why Austin loses this game, the next Montreal goal would probably be like one of the things that we can talk about. Like not this one. This is a thing that just happens when a team's firing on all cylinders.
Yeah. So that goal hurts. We come back out from halftime and almost immediately give up a third. I think it's the 48th minute. Owusu gets a header from, I think, 6 yards out and luckily doesn't get over it and hits the crossbar and goes out for a goal kick. But it could have been over much sooner than it was. Oh, also at halftime, so Dubrsarski comes on for Ilie. Was there any comments or statements on why this happened?
I didn't hear this. I didn't hear anything about this at all.
Yeah, my guess, I mean, it could be Ilie is an older player. It could be minute management. If it were tactical, I'm thinking it could have been just because Montreal, so this is Austin's weakness, right? Is players who are too young to buy alcohol in the United States. I think they had like 3 or 4 21-year-olds, 2 or 3 18-year-olds, something like that. But some very active, like buzzy little players in and around the midfield, or guys who were rotating into the midfield. Austin was trying to press, but oftentimes as soon as one line would get pulled up, we were struggling to find that next man or get to that next man fast enough. They would find Longstaff or Escobar in the pocket, turn, split lines, and then we would be done. And we're just running back towards our own goal. So the press was not super functional most of the time. My guess would be to get a more athletic player in there to try to follow some of those midfielders. But you also probably lose some composure on the ball as we're trying to play through their press. So I'm not sure if it helped us or not there, but I think that's probably why it happened. So Uzuni almost equalizes in the 51st minute. Rubio plays a really nice long ball in behind for Bukhari. He cuts it back to Sabovic at the top of the box, and then he kind of does a little back heel redirect into Uzuni's path. The ball is not perfect, but Uzuni's still able to get his feet right and get a shot off, and it ricochets off the outside of that post. I think if the pass was a bit more into his path where he can either hit it first time or take a touch and hit it, but he kind of still has to dance around a defender, and then the shot is a little bit rushed. And so he doesn't really have time to even look up or pick a spot. He's just hitting it. But it's also a back heel. So I don't know how much more accurate you can expect it to be.
It's ever going to be. Yeah.
I'm all that to say, I'm not criticizing Uzuni too much here for missing that one just because of the way he was even able to get it off in the first place.
And there's a couple of those chances that Austin had throughout the night. I think it's like Bukhari had at least one or two where it's not super high XG, like it's from range, but at this point, like you appreciate guys trying things.
Yeah, we did a few times. We were able to play out of our defensive third, playing out of the back, and then turn. And because they were pressing up so high with kind of their front, like midfield and up, but once you broke through them, it was their back four with Uzuni and Bukhari. And we played over the top a few times and found some joy doing that, but weren't ever able to turn that into kind of a finishing move ever, either for good plays from them, but also I think indecisiveness, lack of sharpness on our end. Sometimes one of these passes that's like, okay, we're in the box, we're doing this, and then you just played a ball 2 yards behind the guy making a run. Like, and it all goes to waste then. But they did kind of figure out a way through the press, but just weren't sharp enough to ever be able to take advantage of it.
Again, one thing, it's like almost a tale as old as time with Austin FC at this point. Squandering opportunities in the final third.
Yeah. So we get subs in the 62nd minute, and Mike Cragnola was texting me, like essentially predicting the subs we were going to see in this game.
Yeah. And was he right?
No, he wasn't, because he was saying it was going to be the exact same ones, all of them after the 72nd minute or whatever. So in the 62nd minute, we get Gallagher on for Sabovic, Taylor on for Rubio. And so these guys come on, and I'm like, okay, I don't know what this shape is going to look like now. But what it ended up being is Gallagher goes to the left wing, and only temporarily, because Dessler ends up getting subbed off later, and Gallagher goes to fullback. But for this little stretch, Gallagher was left wing, and then Owen and Robert Taylor were the central midfielders playing ahead of Duber-Sarski. And so Taylor, we'd heard that, okay, we can play him as an attacking mid, but I was like, I don't think I've ever seen him play there really. And he hasn't played there for us this year, but that's where he was playing. He was kind of playing in Rubio's role for the rest of the game that he was on the field. So I don't think it changed a ton of the game. I don't know that we had a lot more success during this, but probably not less success either during this stretch. And then not long after that, we get to the penalty in the 67th minute that makes it 3-1. So this is an obvious handball from Mikkel Dessler.
Yeah, it is. It's just, you see these guys when the ball goes into the box, like pin their hands behind their back just so they don't throw an arm. Oh, Jackson and I went to bull riding last Friday. Lots of guys throwing their arms in the air to get balance in order to stay on the bull. Like, this is why you put your hands behind you so you don't have to throw your arm in the air to keep where you're in. I feel like this is what Dessler ends up doing. It's like that he wasn't like, his arm wasn't up to try to touch the ball, but clearly his arm is in the air and it hits him almost directly in the hand.
Yeah, okay, this is a tangent. This is not a complaint or an excuse or anything. This is more of
I dig it.
Ponderings from Landon. When they say your hand is in a natural position, I struggle to fully understand what that even means, because you do a lot of weird stuff when you're playing sports or doing something active with your body to you use like counterweight and counter momentum to turn your body and to keep balance and to do things. And so like in my mind, as long as your elbow isn't like bent the wrong way, then you're in a natural position.
But it's never called that way, Landon. So I guess your issue is with the word, right? Or the term.
Yeah, this is me being pedantic again. With like, what is the rule? And I think they should just change the rule to say like, did it hitting their hand affect the play in a way that maybe kept them from scoring a goal? I think I would love for it to just be as subjective as that and just let the ref decide. Because I feel like half the handballs in Austin FC history wouldn't have been called in under those circumstances. And also just like as a neutral fan, even like a passive fan in a game, to like, okay, this game is maybe going to be boring now because like an arbitrary touch to a body part that maybe did or didn't affect the game. I digress. That is not what happened in this one.
So are you saying this is a bad call? You say this is a bad call and you disagree with the outcome?
Call. This was a good call. I agree with the outcome. They should have gotten a penalty here. Dessler, the corner gets whipped in with quite a bit of pace. It's a left footer, so it's an out swinging ball in. I think Dessler doesn't really read how quickly it's whipping outwards. And so he goes in to hit it with his head, but then it's moving at such a rate that it is no longer where he thought it was going to be, and goes past his head, hits him in the hand where he almost catches it. And this is very clearly one you have to call, because there's a lot of players in the box. Anything could have happened if it had gone through there. So you have to call this one. But not used to seeing Dessler be like not sharp in a game, right? We've grown to be able to kind of rely on him to not make dumb mistakes, and he made a few in this game.
Yeah, this is the one that leads to a goal, but I think you're right. It was not his best performance, for sure. And then, so this one, I mean, at this point, we're 70 minutes in, Austin's down 3-1. This is almost the moment of like no hope, but then Austin gets a little bit of it back from Owen Wolff. And like the note I wrote is like Owen goes video game mode, which is like when one guy just runs with the ball at his feet all over the place and then it ends up like leading to a goal. Like there's an assist from Uzuni on this one, but this is like almost an individual moment of greatness that leads to this goal.
Yeah. I want to, when we get to it, I'll give Uzuni some credit too, because it was nice from him as well. But it starts with near disaster on the other end. So they play through our press very easily. Owusu gets the ball in kind of the pocket in between our back line and the midfield, turns, is running at our back line. Obrian runs super hard to try to catch him, goes shoulder to shoulder with him, and just bounces off and falls on the ground. I don't think Owusu even noticed him. Like he just shrugs him off and keeps running. And so Owusu's now one-on-one with our back line, which hasn't gone well for us in this game so far. And he hits a ball really hard. Stuver can only just bring up two hands and punch it. It falls back into the box. Owusu is going to win it. Obrian wins it from him this time. He gets stuck in and comes out with the ball at his feet, beats one defender, plays up the field to Uzuni, who drops it back to Owen. And then this is where the video game sequence starts. So Owen takes one touch around Loturi and pushes forward and just makes it look so effortless. Like he's jogging, but still moving much faster than anybody else is. And so Montreal defenders are kind of ushering him for a bit, but nobody steps to him until they get closer to the box. So Loturi goes in again, and Owen just kind of shrugs him off. And then as Longstaff step towards him, Owen pushes the ball forward and creates a gap. And then he's able to play a pass with the outside of his foot inside to Uzuni. And Owen continues his run into the box and beats Loturi again and just run past him and kind of pushes him aside as he runs past him into the box. Uzuni, this is where I'll give credit to Uzuni. The pass was really nice. Like it's a one-time wall pass back into the box, really well weighted to where Owen doesn't have to wait for it, but it's not so hard that it's really hard to control. And so Owen's first touch slows it down a bit, but still carries him towards the goal. The keeper comes out really aggressively, which it's saying like, I'm not going to let you just hit it hard. You're going to have to like score with a finesse shot here. And Owen just very calmly and coolly lifts it over to the keeper perfectly, rolls into the net for the goal. So it's spectacular from Owen again. I don't know that any of the individual moves are as flashy as the one that we saw last week, but the collection of moves all the way through this play really highlight just how special of a player Owen Wolff is and how special he's becoming, because it feels like it's increasing week over week.
Yeah, and I did want to go back to that. You talked about last week, and you described it really well. And then after we recorded the show, I think on all of, Austin FC social media and on MLS social media, they showed the slow-mo version of that sequence, and it was amazing. It's like, if you haven't seen that, I know you can go back like on Blue Sky and like follow and like look at the MLS account where they show sort of the highlights of the week and like see that Owen one. But yeah, the guy continues to surprise. And then so ball goes in the net. He goes in to pull it out like you do when you're behind by a goal. And there's a whole bunch of nonsense that goes on in there. Like I think one of the defenders and the keeper, these yellow cards that come out, are those related to that? Or are they like right Are they on the restart?
It was for the keeper, I believe.
Okay.
The only one I saw on camera was for the keeper because Loturi, the guy that Owen beats 3 times in a row to score here, he grabs the ball and isn't letting him have it. So Owen's in there trying to get the ball from him. The keeper comes in and shoves Owen into the side netting and then puts his hand like on his chest or on his neck. And I think that's why the keeper gets the yellow card. But it seemed like he's the only one that got carded out of it. They showed a graphic later showing Owen getting a yellow card, but he already had a yellow earlier, so he would have been off the field if he got a yellow for this one.
Right. It's not him.
So
But
I think it was just the keeper.
Okay. And then Austin scored the third goal inspired by that, and this game ended in a draw, right?
What actually happened is we made all the subs that Mike thought we were going to make before, and mostly guys who I don't have a lot of faith in changing a game, especially when they're all in the field at the same time, and they didn't. Bukhari gets one more chance towards the end. So this is one of those Bukhari games where it's just so mixed because he does such special things that nobody else can do, but then also makes some really frustrating decisions sometimes. The last decent chance Austin gets in this game, Bukhari gets into the box from a nice through ball from Uzuni. He tries to cut it back behind the sliding defender, but then the keeper's already there and takes it off his foot and like punches it back out of the way. And then there's one in the 41st minute where he has the ball wide in the box and Owen and Uzuni are in the box. There's 4 defenders in the box, but he kind of waits and holds up. And in a few seconds, there's 9 defenders in the box by the time he actually tries to play anything. And there's like, I know that Bukhari being patient and busting out his dance moves and breaking ankles is how he creates special moments sometimes. But there's other times where him doing that ruins a play. And I don't know the right answer. Like, I don't know when is when until like I'm watching it on TV. So I'm sure it's hard for him to know because like he wants to believe in himself and back himself to beat a guy, but also sometimes make a quick move, play the ball in, make a quick move, take a shot. And I know there's other times we've complained about him doing those exact things. So like, I'm sure it's tough. And like, these are the things bouncing around inside of his head, but it's frustrating when in hindsight, we see him do the wrong thing.
Yeah. And this may be too long of a discussion to have right now, but I feel like so far he could be the most frustrating designated player in the history of this team because the things he does that are good are so obviously good, but like the results are not there, right? Like as soon as you saw Amy Rigoni on the field, you're like, I do not know why we paid this guy. This is obviously a mistake. And you see Bukhari do like a lot of really good things. And you're like, oh my God, of course, this is like, why wouldn't we do this? But then like, if you look at the score sheet at the end of every match or, 2/3 of the way through the season, like the results have not come.
Yeah. It depends on your definition of frustrating, like with the most frustrating DPs. But I understand what you're saying that like, yeah, he clearly has these very special gifts and abilities that can destroy defenders, but then, just makes the wrong decision sometimes and can't finish it off all the time. It seemed like he had turned a corner there for a little bit, and now it seems like he's gone back around that corner the other way.
He's back, hiding back in the corner.
What else do we have, Jeremiah? Should we move on to our things we liked, things we didn't like, and things we learned?
Yeah, let's do that. So I'll start with the things. This one's super obvious, so we're not going to talk about it anymore. Owen is the thing we liked. The second thing I liked was like the away supporters. Like it felt it was a really good crowd. It was a vocal group that traveled to Montreal. I like that for a lot of matches, there still is a decent like away crowd for a team that's not performing up to what it was a few years ago when we'd have a whole bunch of people turning out to games, but for the expense and time and effort of traveling to Montreal, like it was a good crowd, and hopefully the club appreciates that.
Have you ever been to Montreal?
I have not been to Montreal.
I haven't either. I've wanted to go to this away day all 3 times, and for various reasons, the scheduling just hasn't worked out. So I've still never been. But and we don't play them every year, which makes it tougher. And so one day I'm going to go to that away day.
What else did you like?
Oh, there's not a lot to like in this one. Yeah, maybe I'll think of something else. Let's move on to what we didn't like.
Okay.
So you have here the way Austin started the match. Do you have any other?
Oh, just the first 30 minutes. I just like, we've already talked about this, but like the first 30 minutes, especially going into this match, feeling pretty good about how it was going to go. Like the Montreal goals were not a fluke at all. I mean, they were just the better team on the night. And so that was kind of ties back into the opening where it was a thing that was deflating about this whole thing.
And going back to Austin's inability to play through their man mark press, like that's frustrating. Again, it's not a surprise. You know they're going to do it. You'd think there would be some kind of plan, and it didn't. There did not appear to be. If there were, the players did not feel comfortable with it, or Montreal did something different that threw them off, but they did not look confident. We've seen this team look confident and play loose and free in their best games this year, and this was the opposite of that. They did not look confident in what they were supposed to be doing. They did not look confident in the passes they were playing or anything they were doing. And that, yeah, I didn't like that.
And the other thing I didn't like was this Nico Estevez quote about, was it, you never want to lose a game, but maybe we needed it to wake up? Like, I don't know. That's stretching reality there.
Did the last two draws, shouldn't those not have been wake-up calls,
Right.
like to really bad teams at home that we were better than for most of the game? Like, that should be the wake-up call, not this one. If you win those two games, this one almost doesn't matter.
Yeah, and he says it's not about effort, it's not about willingness. We get short. And sometimes I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, I think we talked about this, is the fact that this is not his first language, like an issue, but it's not feel inspiring in terms of like what we can expect going forward to get this really wishy-washy post-game set of comments from the coach.
Yeah. I don't know. You know my thoughts on press conferences. I don't really care that much what he says here. I do want to see him like put the words to action on the field. If he can do that, he can say whatever he wants in the press conference. But
right,
that's like that part is not giving me a lot of confidence right now either.
Yeah, we're 26 matches in, so like we've got a lot of evidence on the field about what he is doing or not doing.
Yeah. I kind of meant to talk about this earlier, but I'll put it into this section. We were talking about Prince Owusu is a handful. The best defenders in this league struggle to deal with him. That being said, I feel like we could have done a little bit better with him, especially Brendan Heinzike. And it might have been Zinchuk making those runs behind that was keeping him there, but I feel like a lot of times Owusu would be on our back line. He would drop into the midfield and they'd play the ball to his feet, and then he would spring it out wide or drop it back. And then our defense would be all out of sorts. Whenever that's like the target man, and I think Svatak is quite good at this most of the time. As that striker drops in, Svatak will follow them and be right on his back, try to win the ball, and if you can't, make it really hard to turn or make the pass that he wants to do. It feels like anytime Owusu was on Heinzike's side and he would drop in, Heinzike was not close enough to him to bother him at all. And I think that's a problem. Like, again, Heinzike looked a little bit off in this game, was lacking sharpness. Like, that sharpness and aggression is not one of the things I would say he usually struggles with, which, yeah, I don't know what was going on, but I would have liked to see him be a bit more aggressive with the Owusu throughout the night. What did we learn here, Jeremiah?
I mean, I think we covered this on the top a little bit. Like Austin's who they are. Austin's going to struggle for a decent playoff positioning. They're probably going to benefit from the fact that everybody else around them the table is also struggling. And like it just, what's the Rick Pitino quote? Like Larry Bird's not coming through that door. Right? Like the Austin is who they are, and the savior's not coming through that door, and we all just kind of have to like adjust our expectations to that reality.
Yeah. I'll shoehorn this in. This probably doesn't fit in this section either, and I don't think it's something I necessarily learned this game, but plays into some of the things that we've complained about this roster build in the past, not having the string pulling playmaker type player. That extrapolates out to our set pieces as well, where Owen is our main set piece taker. He's fine at it, but he's not great at it. And I feel like with the big bodies we have, with guys like Biru who have contributed from set pieces and headers and things like that, if we had a playmaker who would then likely be our set piece taker, that would not only give us better service, but then also put Owen in the box where he's a very good athlete.
Yeah.
And could probably contribute there as well. That's just, I was noticing that during this game where it's like, if we had a string puller, they could probably take the set pieces and we'd probably be more productive there as well. But we don't, and so we're not.
All right, let's go ahead and take the second break, and then we're going to cover the weird week in acquisitions of sorts and deacquisitions of sorts, and then we'll preview the upcoming match against the Earthquakes. Moon Tower Soccer is brought to you by Sage Wilson Realty. The Sage Wilson team is made up of Austin experts who are client focused and have over 30 years of combined real estate experience. And last week, we talked about how Eric Wilson is a local expert. And I talked about how much I loved the Smash Burger in the southwest corner. Then I remembered after the show that Eric Wilson is the person who recommended the Smash Burger to me. So like, not only does he know real estate, but the man knows his burger.
Yeah, true local knowledge right there.
Absolutely. Which you can get at Fairground, by the way. I don't remember the name of the burger still, but you get it at Fairground downtown. That sounds right.
Something like that.
They should give us some money if we're going to keep talking about them.
If you or someone you know are in need of Sage real estate advice in Austin or burger advice, talk to our friends at Sage Wilson Realty. Be sure to check them out online at sagewilson.com.
Our premier sponsor is McGuire Woods Consulting, helping clients in the public affairs space from lobbying at the local, statewide, and federal levels to digital and communications campaigns across the country.
McGuire Woods Consulting has offices in 10 MLS cities, but only supports this podcast and this team for
reasons
I'm struggling to come up with right now. But McGuire Woods is still great, and they back us no matter what. Contact our friends at McGuire Woods Consulting at mwcllc.com for more information. All right, we are back. We are going to preview the San Jose Earthquakes game. But first, let's get into the latest transfer news. Yeah, we can call it transfer news.
Yeah, with a question mark.
So last week, we were approaching the end of the transfer window, and we were talking about whether or not we thought anybody else would come in or if this was the roster we were expecting to have for the rest of the season. It is not going to be the roster we had for the rest of the season, but that is because we lost a player instead of gaining an extra one.
Yes, this is Austin announced on Thursday. Nicky Beloko, who was brought in on a free to Austin, I think showed up in the stands at a FC2 match at Q2 Stadium. No, it's in Q2 at Palmer Field. Departs on a free transfer, with Austin retaining a 15% sell-on fee for potential future transfer, which is kind of funny for a guy that came in on a free and went out on a free. I feel like probably not much going to go on there.
Yeah, it's like essentially if he ever gets sold, maybe they would recoup the costs of them like flying him over and putting him up for a few weeks.
So this official statement here is we made the decision to help Nicky return to Switzerland out of respect for personal circumstances, and we wish him all the best in the next step of his career. Then this was important last week, not so much this week, now that the window's closed. He says, this is from Rodolfo Burrell. As we enter this important final stage of the season, we remain confident in the quality and depth that we possess in central midfield.
Yeah.
We do not. Moon Tower Soccer does not share this take.
I'm Landon Cottom, and I do not endorse this message.
Yeah.
So we got the news about Beloko in the morning, right? And then as transfer deadline day moves on, I'm getting the Tom Bogert alerts on my phone over and over. And then I also have Austin FC alerts set up. And it felt like the Austin FC social pages were in what I would call distraction mode. And I was like, this is not the kind of social media day you have when you're expecting a big incoming signing. And we got the opposite with this guy going out. But Jeremiah, can I hypothesize, postulate?
Yeah, let's do it.
Speculate about what happened here. So I had heard, and again, take many, many grains of salt with all of this, because I do not have a firsthand account of any of this, but I had heard through the grapevine that he was struggling to fit in, to like kind of acclimate as he first got here. And then was told by someone else recently that the move happened because the player was unhappy here and essentially told the club, like, send me back. And so that's as detailed of information as I have. I don't know if it was problems with the club itself, or he didn't like the heat. It was a language barrier. We'd been told he didn't really speak English. And there's not many French speakers in the organization, period, much less on the first team. So I don't know exactly what it was, but you can guess it's maybe a combination of a lot of things. And he wasn't happy here and said, hey, I don't want to play here. Send me back if you can. And they found a way to make it happen. Like, there's been times when I think of Ruben Gabrielson, where he was open about the reason why he wanted to leave and kind of asked for the favor, and the club did him the favor. This feels a little different than that, where maybe the player, it wasn't doing a favor. It was like, hey, I'm not going to be happy here. It would probably be better for everybody if you got rid of me.
I'm
now.
not going to do this thing. Yeah.
Yeah. What's your take here?
I mean, I don't have any evidence to say anything else, other than that. I don't, because like with Gabrielson, and even with Musajite left for many reasons, but like there was a well-known issue with like, and even with like Mirto Uzuni this year, like with having a family in Europe and like wanting to reconnect and like that being away from home and stuff. And like, we never really heard about that. Part of this, maybe he just wasn't here long enough for us to hear about that, but like we didn't hear any of these things. And so I think like the initial reaction is like, oh, clearly there's a family thing going on, except for nobody's talked about a family thing. So I think maybe you're right. It was just like, he came here. He's like, I'm not going to do this. Let's undo this, and I guess the best possible thing for Austin is Austin spent no money for him coming in, so Austin loses no money for him going out.
Yeah, I'm curious if like what the timeline was here, if it was late enough on that they could have, had they known he wasn't going to be here, they could have been working to make some other moves. That didn't happen because of him leaving so late. That like that's
a dark timeline, Landon. I didn't think about that one.
Like, if he never got signed, or if he made a visit before signing the contract and was like, actually no, and then we had time to sign someone else, that would have been a better outcome, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. So I wrote this. Where does it fit on the Austin FC Mount Rushmore of people who never appeared on the club? So
it's players who never played, period.
Never played, period. So I've got Kamal Miller. I've got Beloko.
Joe Corona.
Aaron Schoenfeld.
Ulysses Segura.
Oh, I forgot Segura never even played too. And then somebody reminded me, I think he counts, Nate Jones.
Oh yeah.
First round super draft. I think
him and Corona never signed a contract, but they were picked in a draft of sorts and then never played for the team.
And then the other question becomes, all those guys contribute nothing. Does that make them higher up the list than Amro Tarek, who actually played a game, like negatively contributed to Austin FC and his epic time in town.
Yeah. Looking back at all of this is making me think that maybe it's a bad idea to be an Austin FC fan, Jeremiah. Have we made terrible mistakes tying, not just being a fan, but tying part of our income and a lot of our free time to this cursed team?
Well, let's talk about something else then, because this is not the only trade on the week, but Austin acquired some more GAM, which is the only thing they actually did. This is on deadline day, right? Is this the one incoming move?
Yeah, and it's because Nicky Beloko needed an international roster slot. When he left, oh, look at this. We have an extra one laying around. And so they called their old friends, the ATM machine that is the New England Revolution, and got 125K more GAM for that international roster slot. And so we are player poor, but GAM rich.
And that really is the thing that counts as a fan. It's like how we measure ourselves on how much GAM our favorite team has. So, okay, so like at the end of this, we've been kind of sarcastic. Like, I mean, what do we think? There's a guy, Rodolfo Borrell, in the middle of this, pulling the strings, making these moves, some of which work out, some of which don't. Like, where's your head right now?
I do have thoughts on this. First, I want to answer a question that a couple of people asked me with this international roster slot trade. And so the report was that they received $50,000 in 2025 allocation money and then $75,000 in 2026 allocation money. And so I think that can be a little confusing of like, why do we need the 2025 allocation money if we're not going to use it in 2025? It doesn't expire, so we can actually carry that over into 2026. And the reason they split it up is probably that's just what New England had.
Right.
It's like
what worked for them, right?
We have 50K left this year. We're going to get more next year, so we're going to earmark that for you next year, and we don't get to use that, but you do. So that's probably why it split up like that. Is just for New England's accounting, essentially. But all of this does carry over into the next year. I would guess like Rodo complained about not having any room a couple of windows back, like no allocation money, no roster spots. And so he's going to make sure he doesn't end up in that situation again. But back to your original question, like, where's my head at on Rodo? I think like we don't have enough information to know exactly what's going on, to know exactly what the truth is. But I think there's a few possible realities, and it's a pretty small subset of possible realities, I think. So let's go through those and we can discuss which one we think is most likely. One possibility is just sheer incompetence, that he genuinely thought that this team had all the right pieces. He thought that as good as Owen Wolff is at certain things in the field, he thought that he would be the string puller playmaker guy, that he just isn't. And that's no shade to Owen. It's just not the specific thing that he's good at. That's the incompetence take. I am still not fully on board with that take. What about you?
No, I disagree with that take. I don't think, and luckily, as an Austin FC fan, I have had an incompetent GM before, and no one looks like, on the street. And, I don't think it's that. I think one of the things that is clear, has been clear from the start, and is especially clear now, is that this is a man who believes in himself and has wanted to create this team in his own image and belief system. We've talked about the front office moves we've made. We talked about the player moves that he's made. And it's very much like he's putting a stake in the ground that this is like Rodolfo Borrell's viewpoint from like top to bottom of the soccer operation, including scouts and athletic trainers and coaches and everything. And this is his club. But I think we're enough transfer windows into this where one can start to question how it's going. And I definitely think by this winter, like there's no excuse for like a lack of success going into next year? Because like he's had the chance to overhaul the entire system over multiple windows. I think he said, give me 4 windows or whatever, and then we'll know. And I think this is the 4th window, right?
Yeah, and so you mentioned going into the winter window. That brings me to my second possibility, which is that Rodo has a master plan, that like he has at least contingencies for things that he has lined up already, or a few different things he has lined up, or options he has made available for himself that are available this winter, and is being careful with his roster spots, not tying up any long-term contracts for spaces that he knows he wants to use this winter. That take is still a little frustrating just because of how much was spent on DPs in a way that didn't really fit the team and didn't really make the team optimized for this season. But the long-term build could still benefit from not making any, like not tying up any of those spots long-term this window specifically.
But the other side of that is, as we talked about, like Austin doesn't have like a lot of really bad contracts. Like he's offloaded most of the bad deals at this point. So I don't know where this master plan is waiting on, if that's the idea.
Yeah, and also like you would think if he does have moves lined up that those were more likely to be available during the summer. Maybe that's not true. Maybe we're thinking he has this European bias that maybe he doesn't. But with his connections, if he has like some big secret weapon lined up, you'd think it would be in Europe. And now
which they should be in now, right?
Yeah. So let's move on to the third one, which I think is the scariest one, which is just sheer hubris that Burrell isn't entirely incompetent, but that he is maybe not quite as smart as he thinks he is, and is taking this big swing on a thing that may or may not work out. And so far, it's not working out entirely. It's not been entirely a failure. There has been some good upgrades, some good incoming pieces over the last year or so. But if you look at results, the overall roster build, it's not working. And so where do you think this one lies? Like, how would you rank these 3 options? Incompetence, actually a secret genius, or arrogant hubris?
Man, I don't want to say this right now, but like I don't think from results you can argue the point beyond the hubris point, or it's just, I don't know what this would fall into as far as like acquiring a lot of talent, but not, where do you put in like getting a lot of good players, but not appreciating how they fit together?
I would call that hubris.
You call that hubris, right? Yeah. And maybe trusting a coach that did not succeed before somewhere else, right? And doesn't really seem to have ideas that fit with the collection of players that we have. Like, I can even see that now, right? And I don't want to throw Nico under the bus after 26 games, but I can also see a possibility where somebody else looks at these pieces that Austin has assembled and finds a different way to put them together and play in a different way that makes them have better results.
Yeah. Like I said before, we do not have enough information. There are pieces to this puzzle that are only known by people inside that very close circle to Rodolfo Burrell. But something that you mentioned before, come winter time, we're going to know, like the proof will be in the pudding by that point in time. If we're still playing without a playmaker, if we're still an incomplete, weirdly fitting roster, then I think the like incompetence or hubris options will become like, it's one of those two for sure.
Yeah.
I'm still holding out hope that he has a master plan that has yet to come to fruition, but yeah, that might be just hope. I don't know what evidence to hang my hat on for that one so far.
What is it? It's the hope that kills you, right? It's a line we haven't used in a while, but it feels like the right one now. So One really quick other bit of news for those of you planning your October 12th is that the rescheduled LAFC match for that day was originally scheduled for 5. It's now kicking off at 6. I'm assuming this is for broadcast reasons. I don't really know why, but
that's the way it was framed in the emails, that we are the prime time game that day. So I believe it was for broadcast reasons.
There must be like not a lot of other good choices for that day, but it's fine. Let's go for it. Let's talk about this match Saturday against San Jose, which is a team that Austin is very familiar with. And it surprised me that we had not played in the league yet this year, because I feel like every other week Austin plays against San Jose.
Yeah, the only game we've played is in that Open Cup match, the insane Open Cup match that we somehow made it through. It's also when Brandon Vasquez went down with his knee injury. So that was the last game he played in. What has San Jose been up to since then, Jeremiah? Where are they at now?
So San Jose's 8th in the West. They're tied on points, 35 points with Austin, but they have a positive goal differential where Austin has a negative.
And we do still have a game in hand on them.
We do. Yep.
Points per game, we are technically above them, but overall points right now, we're tied.
And I was just thinking about this like long history these clubs have of playing each other. And I think the last time for the Open Cup match, we talked about how this is maybe like the most organic rivalry that Austin has, just because they play a lot. It seems to always be chaotic. It's always up and down. So on decision day on October 18th, which is the final day of the season, this will be the second performance. And with where everybody is, that could be a really important match too, in terms of who makes the playoffs, who makes the play-in game, who hosts the play-in game, whatever it might be. I think the good thing for Austin on this weekend probably is that this match is at home. But who knows?
Yeah, it's definitely going to have a lot to say with that playoff race, like you were mentioning. The way the table's lined up, like San Jose and Austin are probably going to end up very near each other. And if we can take points off of them this one and on decision day, that would go a really long way, so that we're not relying on taking points off of Seattle and LAFC. And in those games, if we can beat San Jose and then beat or get results off of the other teams who are behind us, it could go a long way to pushing Austin FC up that table, or at least sustaining our fall down the table.
Well, so you touched on this in the opening, but what do we think we see with Danny Pereira back? Because we talked about how it's been a pretty consistent 11. Danny's out on yellow card accumulation. Now he's back. I mean, my assumption is we're going to see him start again, but how do you think that changes the way Austin plays on the evening?
I mean, what I would guess and kind of what I hope is they just go back to what they were doing before, and you have Danny there to do Danny stuff, where Sabovic has his gifts, but the game kind of has to come to him, where Danny can go and grab the game sometimes and carry it up the field or open up stuff that nobody else can. So, yeah, I kind of hope they just kind of go back to the same old, and we can see the version that we saw in those 2 games we won in a row, as opposed to, and then even in the Dallas and Houston games, there was some good soccer being played until a certain point in both of those games. And so the first 70 minutes or the first half of those games, if we can play like that for the whole game, we'll be okay. So I don't think there's like huge changes that need to be made here.
Yeah, one of the things I'm probably going to regret saying this for the review, but Austin has scored, even, accounting for Montreal, in the last 5 matches, they've scored 11 goals. We're averaging over 2 goals a game over that stretch. And it feels like the Austin-San Jose matches usually feature a lot of goals. So that would be interesting to see too. I think we can expect an exciting match for everybody on Saturday. We just hope that Austin gets the results that they're looking out for.
One thing that may be in Austin's favor here is Christian Espinosa is going to be out on yellow card accumulation, and so they'll be missing him. They still have other really good players in the attack, with Chicho Arango, of course, and then Joseph Martinez doesn't always start, but he will almost certainly play. He'll usually come on late in the game if he doesn't start. And then Preston Judd, I mean, he's not those other 2 guys, but he's not bad either. He can be a problem on his day. So still a lot to to deal with, but hopefully not having Espinosa will make it a little bit more difficult for them.
Yeah, both those other two guys, Martinez and Arango, both have 12 goals in the season already. So, yeah, it's a very threatening attack, but definitely Espinosa being able to create trouble and assists, especially with an Austin team that has struggled somewhat in the midfield in transition. Like, it's better for him to be out than in.
Yeah, we cannot give up balls in vulnerable areas of the field to give them transition moments like we did in this last game and have done in other games this season. We need our back line to be sharper than they were in this game as well. If like Heinzike needs to be sharp, focused on his game. Same for Svatak, same for Dessler. Expectations are a little different for Biru, but because we are pushing him forward, he's underlapping and getting forward a lot more often. When we're pinned back, he needs to do the same. But and then whenever Biru is getting forward, like I said, we can't give up balls to completely cut him out of a defensive play where it's not his fault. Like he's doing what he's supposed to do and pushing forward. But if we lose a ball in the time when he's doing that, you're hanging your teammates out to dry. We can't do that. So again, we don't need to change a lot. We just need to play the way that we've seen this team play, and we should be okay. But if we don't, this team is dangerous enough to punish us for that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, a lot of, we talked about that one Montreal goal being sort of like just a team goal that you can't get away from, but a lot of those things are execution things. And last week it's failed. And in the home matches that ended up with draws that we thought Austin should have won, like it was a failure in execution. So it's just like if our best 11 players who will be on the field, because we kind of know who our best 11 is right now, if they go out and perform at the level that they can, this is an Austin win. And if they don't, it's like another frustrating week.
Yeah, and we need to score goals as well. Like we've been scoring goals lately, right? We've just been giving up more. And so we can't find the balance, right? Like it's either nobody scores or everybody scores. But San Jose leads the Western Conference in goals for, but still only have a +4 goal differential because they give up some of the most goal. Like I think they're third worst in goals against in the Western Conference. So we need to take advantage of that. We can't, again, if they just play well, they're probably going to score on us. There's sometimes you just can't stop it. But if we can limit it and put some balls in the back of our net, then we can come out ahead of this one.
All right. Score more goals than San Jose scores. I feel like that's like ultimately the analysis on how Austin has their keys to victory.
We've cracked it, Jeremiah.
Let's do that.
All right. Anything else here?
No, let's wrap it up.
All right. We'd like to remind you to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Come find us online wherever you are online. Sign up for the Patreon. And I think that's all. Thanks so much for listening. We'll be back next week to review the San Jose Earthquakes match and then preview the Sporting Kansas City away match and then cover whatever news comes our way. Until then, I'm Landon Cottom.
I'm Jeremiah Bentley.
We'll catch you next time.
When no one is around.
Think for nothings, you never.
La gente.
Oh my God.
Zula Chupa Boom Sauce.
You know?